everybody. Happy Wednesday. I hope it is as gorgeous where you are as it is where I am today, because Southern California is delivering rock star weather. And I always say we pay for it, but man, is it worth it. I know Dr. Mary Gardner is here with us, and she's in California too. And it looks like it's sunny, as it should be right where you are as well.
It is.
Yeah, good. We do have a few cat things too. Love those cats as well. Anyway, I am super excited to be talking today with Dr. Mary Gardner, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But before we launch, I want to give you guys time to pop in, because I know you're busy, and I set this time, so I'm hoping that for those of you who are at work, you're taking a little lunch break, or just a break, or you just need a mental break and you want to tune in, or if you're on the East Coast, you're just getting home and just take a few seconds. You have us on your cell phone or wherever. But anyway, let's let you know a few things that are going on here. Hi, Dawn. Dawn is always on, and I had the pleasure of meeting her in person at a trade show. So that was a real treat for me as well. So welcome, Dawn. And don't forget to invite your friends. And as you pop in, please put where you're from and what dog you have. And if you want to tell us something about your dog, that would be great. Okay, so what's going on here? Dog is good. A couple things. First and foremost is our giveaway. So I'm super excited because I don't know if you get gifts from your dogs, but I get gifts from my dogs. And my dogs for sure get me stocked with Dog Mom paraphernalia. So this is our Dog Mom Best Relationship Ever t-shirt. And some people have asked me, why is it white? It's white because this is what you wear when you're going out with a pair of jeans and a cute little jacket or whatever. You're not going to wear it to walk the dog. But for those of you who want to wear it while you are walking the dog, best relationship ever, we have one in rose as well, a mauve rosy color to me online. So anyway, this will be part of the product. And then this was created. I don't know if any of you moms with human children out there ever experienced this. Get it in front of the thing, right in front of it. You can read it. It says, "My dog would never send me to voicemail." Good to be a dog mom. I have a 20-year-old, and we could be texting back and forth, and I call her, and she never picks up the phone. And come to find out, most kids that age don't pick up the phone. They send you right to voicemail. So just letting you know, Abby Bola would never send me to voicemail. So, okay, great. Welcome. Dawn has Kia, and I see there's some more viewers on here, but I'm hoping that you guys will come and let us know where you're from, and please do share. Also, as it relates to Dog Mom, I want to let you know we are having a Dog Mom date night tomorrow afternoon, and so here is how you get to participate, because it's going to be hilarious, fun, great opportunity for prizes, and some special offers for you guys as well. You have to be part of the private Facebook group. So when you go to Facebook, look up Dog is Good Lifestyle Group, join, and then you have to RSVP specifically to be included in this to the Dog Mom date night. So join, invite your friends. The more the merrier. It's going to be fun. I'm telling you, we are pulling out all the stops. It's very creative. It'll be fun. And you're going to have a great time. So join us for that. It'll be 4 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow afternoon. That's Thursday. And let's see, what else do I want to tell you? I think that's pretty much it. I'm ready to dive on in with our guest, who it took us forever to get this scheduled. But I'm so glad I did. And I'm going to give her a proper introduction. But what I want to say is this. I had the pleasure of being in the audience when Dr. Gardner spoke at a conference that I was attending, and it was one of those presentations where you're so pulled in by the speaker, you're so engaged because of the speaker, that when the time was up and she was over, I was like, no, I want to listen to you more. Just such a great presenter, and the passion that she has, as well as her partner, Dr. Danny McVetti, that they have for what they do is it is fabulous. I wish everybody exuded that same level of passion for what they do. We'd have a world of very, very happy people, and certainly happy people who deal with those people. So I'm really, really glad that you got to get this on the books. And so I'm going to introduce her more properly now. And Dr. Mary Gardner is, for her, there's nothing better than a dog with a gray muzzle. So sweet. Or a skinny old cat, for that matter. Her professional goal is to increase awareness and medical care for the geriatric veterinary patient, and to help make the final stage of life be as peaceful as possible, surrounded with dignity and support for all involved. She is a University of Florida graduate, discovered her niche in the end-of-life care, and is co-founder and CTO of Lap of Love, which now has over 130 veterinarians around the country dedicated to veterinary hospice and euthanasia in the home. Dr. Gardner and Lap of Love have been featured in Entrepreneur Magazine, the New York Times, the Associated Press, The Doctors, and numerous professional veterinary publications. When not working, she loves to play golf and spend as much time with family and friends as possible. Awesome. Thank you so much, and welcome to the Lifestyle Show.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
Yay! And we have some fellow Gators in the house too. Rhonda and Brittany is she's not from Florida, but she is from Pennsylvania with 4 dogs. Awesome.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So you guys keep popping in, keep sharing with your friends, because it's going to be a good conversation. It's not, we're going to be focusing today on what the purpose and emphasis and focus is on Lap of Love, but more around, or in addition to that, really a conversation around our pets as they're aging, for that stage prior to the geriatric stage. So anyway, let's get started. Give me your background in terms of how your role in launching the Lap of Love, like what drew you to this whole business model, and what your vision was around it, and how you feel about how it's grown and expanded to serve the community on a national level.
Yeah, well, thanks again for having me. It was, my love of the old dogs and cats. I think I've always had that. But I actually was not the norm, and thought I'd become a veterinarian, as a young child. Like, that was never necessarily one of my dreams, if you will. I mean, we all love animals, but to be a vet, I thought, oh, that's so much schooling. So I actually was about 10 years, almost 10 years in software development. And I had a Samoyed during that time frame. Her name was Snow White. And one time when I was traveling for work, she was attacked by another dog, and she was in and out of the hospital for about 3 weeks. And the hospital was wonderful. This was in South Florida. And they kept me apprised of her progress. And I'd visit and I'd call like every day, crazy. And but finally, the wounds were so bad, and she had a systemic infection that she died. And that loss of her actually, and the grief that I went through, made me just search for something else in life. And I thought, if I can help families that love their pets as much as I loved Snow White, then maybe that's the path I should take. So in my 30s, I quit software and applied for vet school, and got in at 31. So I got out when I was 35, and started in general practice in South Florida. I worked at a wonderful practice with awesome technicians and fellow doctors and receptionists, but there was just something missing, and I was getting pulled into industry work just mainly because of my background of technology. And so it was kind of like, well, maybe that's a good way to combine both, loves, if you will, technology and also veterinary medicine. But I was talking to my classmate, Danny McVitie, who's now my partner, and she was in emergency and doing in-home hospice and euthanasia up in Tampa. And so she called me and said, she wanted to expand her website and work on software to help manage her appointments and drug log and communications, things like that. And so she's like, would you mind coming up and, for a couple of days and hashing things out? And so I was like, okay, sure. But I wasn't really considering also doing it. And so it wasn't until I was up there talking to her that I thought, it's not as depressing as everybody assumes, because that's what they think, And so I thought, the light bulb clicked, and I thought the reason I became a vet was because of the death of my dog. And so I understand the grief that's around it, the anxiety before it, everything. And if we could make it a little bit better, then that's actually why I became a vet. So I steered away from industry and said, you know what? Yeah, like I'm going to start to do this in South Florida also. And at the time, she had a lot of veterinarians calling her for advice, and because other vets, offer in-home euthanasia services, and sometimes the practice at a general practice, if they're able to schedule it, they will. It's difficult to schedule during the day when you're managing other cases, but so we just said, you know what, if we could also manage the business aspect and the marketing and the technology and the Google AdWords and all these things, so that way our veterinarians can focus on what they want to do and do well, which is helping the families, we could take on some of that back end role. And so that's how it, kind of started to grow back in 2010. Danny started in 2009. And then 2010 is when I came on board, and we just started to grow it from there. And so that was, 8 years ago, or however long it is now. And so 130 vets later is crazy. But yeah, so now we have a call center, which is our support center, and we help. We answer about 600 phone calls a day from families around the country. So it has definitely grown into something that we had hoped it would grow into, and helping so many families is awesome.
No, that's so fantastic. Gosh, you have just said, you've hit on so many things that I want to pull out to highlight. I know everybody's dog lovers too here, but I always look and listen from the perspective of just life lessons. Mm-hmm. And the first one that you mentioned, and I just want to remind everybody this, at any given moment in time, no matter where you are, what you're doing, if you choose to make a shift or change, all you have to do is decide, and mm-hmm. then do it. Just pivot. My daughter behind me, I don't know if you can see that picture there, with my little Japanese chin. She said something very poignant one time, and it really surprised me for her young age, but it was very enlightening as well. And that was, Mom, if something just isn't working, all I got to do is change it. Like, I don't know why everybody gets all stressed out over it. So anyway, it's as simple as just making a choice and taking one step in that new direction. So I love that part of it. And then the second thing too, for those people who are, sometimes floundering in the, I call it sort of the abyss of not knowing how to do everything. There's a reason for that, because we're not supposed to be able to do everything. And so you and Dr. Mathetti having a partnership where you both have these amazing strengths that together are just so powerful, which has enabled this company to grow at such a rapid pace, and in turn serve so many grateful families around the country. I love that. So I just wanted to kind of pull those out for people to remember.
Thank you. Yeah, it's so true. Like, I was scared to leave software. It was a good job. I had a good salary, and then I was going to go back to school and get into debt. I mean, vet school is $200,000 of debt, right? And so I'm like, uh-oh. And then I was scared to even leave general practice and think about industry work, because that's what everybody thinks you got to go to be a vet, to go to general practice. And then I've, and sometimes myself and some of our veterinarians hear from friends or family that don't really get what we do. And they'll say, well, you went to vet school to, save animals. And I say, I went to vet school to help animals. And sometimes letting them go is how we need to help. And I don't feel like I'm wasting my education, if you will. And sometimes, people may think that because we're focused on the end of life, but I talk about diseases more than I ever did in general practice. I have more time with the family, which I like. In general practice, we're, 10-minute appointments, and I don't ever get to bond with the family fully. So this has allowed me to do things that I couldn't have done in general practice, which I love. And you're so right. Like, you can't do everything. Sometimes you want to do everything and it's hard to delegate, but there's no way that, without the two of us together, we could be where we are now, because there are things that I'm not good at. Danny's so good at communication. I'm a nerd. I want to be techie and build our software all night. So, I'm not the best with words, and I'm sure I'll insert my foot at some point during this video.
You're so real. You both really are, but that's what makes listening to you just really so engaging, because you are. So to just that point of what you said, as far as utilizing what you learned in vet school, I think if that was the only way to envision things in applying to fix something or to do a surgery or whatever. But I feel like you guys go so much beyond the actual pet themselves and are a bridge between the pet and the human side, and your compassion and what's been done through training to instill in those who are part of the network is especially now more than ever. I think no one ever likes to lose a pet, but I feel in the past 10 years it has shifted. The level of grief that people go through is different, certainly, than when our parents had dogs or cats. It's just a different time, and they play a different role in our lives than they had before too. So I think that's such a huge piece too, that you can take, school for a degree in psychology or psychiatry. It's all
for sure.
fine. Yeah. So okay, so if you could, for those people who may not be familiar with Lap of Love, could you tell us briefly, like specifically, what it is that Lap of Love does, and how they can reach out if they are in need, or if they know somebody that might be in need? And then I want to talk about senior pets.
Okay, perfect. So Lap of Love, we are exclusively focused on end of life care. So in the home, in family's home. And so we really offer two main services. One is when it's time to say goodbye, so euthanasia. And this is a very difficult appointment to plan. It's not one that is easily identified sometimes, and even last minute. But if we could make it good, surrounded by family members, other pets, things like that, the pet could be comfortable. So that is our number one focus, is that the end of life is a good experience, as much as it can be for everybody. So we provide that services. We are in about 60 locations across the country. So mostly major metropolitan areas like Orange County, California, where I'm at, and Tampa and Chicago, but also some smaller ones, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we have some wonderful vets. The other part of our service is hospice. So before the end, and when we think quality life is still manageable and is good for both the pet and the family, because it's not easy taking care of a terminally ill pet or a very advanced geriatric pet. So hospice offers palliative care, not just in medicine, but also environmental changes. So how can we make it easier for the pet to manage around the house? And these little weak and wobbly, I always call them. So it's able to bridge the gap between them being okay to when we have to say goodbye, and making sure that time period is it still has a good quality, right? And so we can't always increase quantity, but we can make quality a little bit better. So our hospice service is not about not performing the euthanasia or prolonging suffering. Not at all. What I want to do, and what we all want to do, is make sure that the pet and the family are cared for during that time, so they can focus on the good until they have to say goodbye. So that's our two core services.
When would somebody actually call to hire or inquire hospice care, and what does that actually entail? Like, if you could explain it directly, a person.
Yeah. Well, sometimes veterinarians will refer their clients to us. So if they've, and a lot of times it's because we're very good at the discussion of how will I know when it's time. And that is something that we train our veterinarians to have a very in-depth conversation about. And it's not one that's easily done at a clinic. So sometimes people will refer to us. But I have to say, sometimes people call into our support center and they'll say, you know what, I know it's not time yet. I just want to be in your system. To me, that means they need help, right? To me, those are our hospice clients. They know something is not right. And maybe they're on medication, maybe they're not, maybe they're struggling, they're panting and pacing at night or things like that, right? So they know it's closed, but they just don't know when. And that is, I think, when they need the most hand-holding through this. And so we try to encourage, well, maybe it's best to have a consultation with one of our veterinarians or hospice, and so I think it's almost innately know that, this year, in the next few months or next few weeks. And sometimes, we like to avoid what we don't want to think about and talk about, right? And just kind of like oh, he's sleeping really well, so maybe he's okay, right? But maybe he can sleep a little better even, and so I think one of the things I struggle with is that I wish people would reach out to us a little sooner than the euthanasia appointment, because when I go to homes and I see that the pet and the family could have been helped a little bit by just some minor guidance. We're not talking about earth-shattering things, but just some education. That hurts my heart a little bit, is that I think they're scared, they don't want us to come in and say it's time. And we don't always do that, right? I have many times where I'm like, you know what? I think we might have some good quality left, and there's some easy stuff that we can do. And if it's not with us, it's with their regular veterinarian. It's to go see, their primary care vet, because there is some things that we could do. It is nice to be in the home though, because we can see the environment, and there's a lot of little stuff that we can help a family with, or it's the rambunctious puppy that they also got, and that puppy is knocking them over as they're trying to go out the sliding door, or also the emotions. I could see it better in the home between the husband and wife, or the kids and the teenagers, and so it's a very different and open environment in the home.
That's awesome. So leading up to, prior to even hospice, there's that period, and we were talking just before coming on live about the different stages of not so much development, but the age-related progress of life in the dog. And so, we start with the young puppy and a puppy, adolescent, et cetera. And I asked you, like, at what point do you consider a dog to be a senior dog? Share a little bit about that. I want, if you could maybe share that with our audience too. And I also want to remind you guys, if you have questions or comments, please feel free to put those in as it relates to the conversation around our pets and as they age.
Yeah, the gray muzzles, as I call them, right? Right, we all know, like you said, we know the puppy stage, which is usually about 1 year. And then there's the adult, so from that to around 7 or 8. And then it's the big category, which is the seniors. And historically, we just say it's about 7 or 8 years old. There's a few problems with that, though. One is that really it's just a number. So dare I say, in 20 years, I'm going to be 65. I'm going to be considered a senior, right? And so I'm going to be kicking and screaming when I get my AARP.
Okay, 20 years, okay.
I'm 45 now, so in 20 years, I'll be 65, because that is just a number. That is just a number that we say that you're a senior citizen, right? So but is that how healthy I am? Is that how strong I am, or independent, or something like that? So really senior is also similar in pets. But that also means at 65, I need to be more mindful of blood work and getting, seen by my doctor twice a year versus once a year, and making sure that as I age, the things are managed, or things that are maybe brewing that I don't know about, we can find them sooner. So that's why we also want to see pets in the clinic around 7 or 8 more often, because that's when things are going to start to, kind of get out of whack. So that's around 7, but it's also depending on the breed, right? So you have a lab, right? So who's at your feet?
Yeah. He's my senior. I was going to ask you a question about in a little while.
Okay. Oh no, that's perfect. So with the lab, that they're actually the average dog, right? I hate to say it, but they are, and so we know that their lifespan is usually into the 12 and 13 age range. It's sort of like us. We can hope for 80s and 90s, right? So we hope for 12 or 13, unless they get another type of disease like cancer or heart failure. So really around 7 or 8 is their senior years. But what about the Jack Russell, right? Or the Chihuahua? They live a longer time. So they usually are around 15 or 16, 17. I've helped a dachshund once that was 21 years old. So they, but I've never met a lab that's 21. And what's that? Have you known a lab?
Bola will be your first.
There you go. I like it. Right. Like, listen, I'm going to be 130.
That's right.
So that's right. But now the Great Danes, or the much larger breeds, they unfortunately have a shorter lifespan. So they're 9 or 10. We're always surprised when we see them. So depending on the breed and their size, actually their lifespan is going to be different. But for me, I think about geriatrics, and that is one of my purposes in life is to learn as much as I can about geriatrics, help those families with geriatrics, and that to me is their health span. It's not so much their lifespan, right? So how are they managing around the house? How are they, dealing with the ailments that they may start to encounter as they get older? Because a 8-year-old lab is probably running around crazy and great. How I hope to be at 65, right? But now at 11 or 12, that lab is not the same. And they're starting to slow down. They're panting and pacing at night. Their, appetite's decreasing and some other ailments that may come up. So I think they're a different breed, if you will, as a geriatric. So when is that?
Yeah, I was going to ask, is that something that you see suddenly, or is there this slow progressive onset that occurs?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I do think there's under a layer of slow progress, right? And it's like a little roller coaster, and you don't really see a lot until there's almost a free fall, and there is a much faster decline, and it's usually around that last 10% of their lifespan, right? So a dog that's usually about 12 years old, their last year to year and a half is the big struggle, and this is just particularly aging, not necessarily a disease itself, right? So, cancer, depending on the type of cancer, they may have years, or they may only have 6 months, and the free fall may come at a faster rate. But just getting old, it's like us. We're gonna do really well, and then all of a sudden, around mid to late 80s, it's like boom, it's hard, right? You need somebody to help get you to the food store. You need somebody to make sure they remember your sweater because it's cold, or drive you around, or pay your bills because you can't remember to. So there is almost that free fall in humans too, that we struggle, we wobble, but then there's a dependency, and that is usually seen around the last 10% of the lifespan of that pet.
So I just want to interject. Kristen, who's watching, shared that her lab 13, way to go, is still working service dog and got guys.
Nice.
And she runs full senior lab work every 6 months, as well as abdominal US and full body rads every year. If anything comes up, we catch it and just go like, wow, that's awesome.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
I love that.
And she's doing great, right? So it's blood work every 6 months, because as we know, our pets age faster than we do, right? So that's like doing blood work on us every year and a half, 2 years. And it's not a linear, it's not 7 to 1 exactly. But I did the same thing too. I bring my dogs in for full body x-rays and ultrasound. Is there anything brewing that I don't know about? Because that's the thing, is you might have a hemangiosarcoma or a splenic tumor, and we don't know about it because it's in the abdominal cavity, so you can't see it. It's not like a lump that they can see. And so all of a sudden that just, bursts, and we're like, oh my gosh, what happened? He just went down all of a sudden. But that's been there for months or a year, just growing. And so she's doing a fantastic job, so that way she can catch things early.
Yeah, that's awesome. And welcome, Ann. Don't worry about being late. Catch the first part earlier in the replay. Okay, so tell me some of the things that you like to do that you strive to do to educate people as their pets are aging. Like, what are some of the simple changes that you might be either looking out for or implementing besides the additional care visits? Is there anything else that they should be doing?
So, yeah, excellent question. And usually when I'm helping a family, I'll say, what are your struggles, right? Because blood work and x-rays and dentals, which is what most of us are educated on, is like, that's what we need to do. That's maybe not what the struggle is at home. And so if we've got a dog that's got, arthritis or just muscle wasting. So there's, as we get older, there's just a natural muscle wasting that happens. So those are the little spaghetti legs, like I say. So we need to see how they're managing around their environment. And the larger the breeds usually have a bit of a struggle with that. The smaller guys are smaller, so their weight is easier to manage. We pick them up, we carry them around, right? And so these big guys, they're the hard ones. So first, to look around the flooring, because mobility is the number one issue I see, is just just the weak and the wobbly and the spaghetti legs and getting around. So it's not even the flight of stairs. It's maybe 1 or 2 steps out of the front door. So first, look at their flooring. And with tile and hardwood floors, those are ice rinks. Those are like me wearing, 4-inch heels, which I don't do that.
Have to be 8 for me because I typically do wear 3 to 4 inch heels.
Do you? Okay, right. So I'm naturally 6'1", so like I need to wear ballet shoes, or flats, ballet flats. So using yoga mats or bath mats around the house is such a huge benefit for the pets. And start that earlier than later because they need their traction. And if they're nervous to go around, and I've got some videos where like a pet is so nervous to go down a hallway, and then we lay down a bath mat and they're like, and they're running around.
Yes.
Right? So we may think, oh, he's slowing down. Well, he's scared. Like, I don't want to walk on those heels, right? And I'm scared. So they'll only do it when they need to. So you'd be surprised that you almost energize them again. So yoga mats are great because you can just roll them out. You can cut them into shapes, go around corners. But, all the way to the door, all the way to their food bowl, all the way to their favorite spot off the couch, the landing of stairs. Can you imagine going down a flight of stairs head first, right? And so that's what dogs do, right? They actually go down head first. And at the end, they have a hard time stopping, if you will. So sometimes they crash there. So putting a good bath mat there or runners all the way up the stairs. So clearly I'm a big thing about stairs and mobility because that is what we see. But when it gets so bad, there's wonderful harnesses that I like called Help 'em Up harness. And there's some other ones that really just giving them the help up. Because what I see owners do is they want to say, well, I want him to get up on his own because then he's exercising, right? But that hurts. But once they get up, then the exercise then is when it doesn't hurt, like walking. So still keeping up with the exercise. The Arthritis Foundation, their motto is keep on moving. And so you can't not move. And that's the other thing is keep them on their walks. Keep them earlier in the morning when it's cooler out, so because they're going to get overheated more, what have you. So that's the number one big thing. Another struggle that we see often is the panting and pacing or cognition. And that's a sad one. It also affects humans, right? So dementia, Alzheimer's, and 50% of dogs over the age of 10 will have already some signs of Alzheimer's, but we just don't know. So there's things that we could start doing in the beginning of these stages. There's foods that have, certain nutrients. So Bright Minds from Purina, starting that early can actually help prevent some of these things, or at least the speed in which they happen, right? So that's a big struggle and one that is really hard because they're eating, they're running, they're playing, but then they're circling or they're just drooling or they're panting and pacing and just by the door, whatever it may be. So for that, there are some medications that we can give, especially to help sleep at night for everybody. But little things like sound machines around the house, or for my guy, I had to put signs on my door: "Do not ring this doorbell," because if that doorbell rang, he just the whole day was ruined for him. So there's things that are happening that you may not know about until they get so bad, right? And that's where we think, oh, it just happened overnight. There were signs, we just didn't know it.
You weren't aware, and I think sometimes too, as I look back on the 2 dogs who have since passed in my life, I don't think that Sasha was a little bit of a different story because she did have cancer, so it was a little bit more obvious. But even with Zoe, almost like a subconscious denial that my dogs are getting older, maybe, I don't know, but that it did appear like suddenly, oh my gosh, what's happening here? And there probably were signs leading up to it that were more.
There are.
So I had a question for you, and I want to open it up to you guys to ask questions as well, if you have some. I have a senior pet, Henry, who's in the background. He lost his eyesight to glaucoma last year.
Okay.
The biggest concern with him is that, and he gets immobily, he's fine. He can navigate our home without a problem. My challenge is we're about to move into a new home. Beauty of it is all one level, so that's perfect for him, easier. And I think that he'll be pretty resilient. I'll work with him on, we don't have a whole lot of furniture, so he'll kind of figure it out and whatnot. But and he appears to have all his cognition, but yet he seems, I don't know if the word is depressed or what. He doesn't really ever want to do anything anymore. You know, if I try to
Okay.
out, he doesn't want to go out. He doesn't want to go on a walk. He's no longer interested in going in this little stroller that I bought him. And even on the grass, when I take him out to a park to the grass, he does like to roll around in it, but he doesn't like to navigate anymore. And so I just
Mhm.
healthy. I feel he's healthy. Like there's nothing else really wrong with him. But how do you have any recommendations on how to get through this? Because I just feel like his life has shifted so much, and Bola's,
Mhm.
so to speak, she's a dog now. I mean, at age 4, but he's just, yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So I do think that I'm sorry, girl or boy again, your baby?
male, and he's 12.
12. Okay. So I do think he probably does have some cognition. And so, and wrapping that in with his loss of his eyesight, a little bit of anxiety. So he may be nervous to go around and outside, and then he's confused, and he doesn't know how to tell you that, right? So there are definitely some supplements, and what I'll do is I'll post them up on the comments of this. That way people can go there if that would be helpful. And so I do think that will help, first of all. Now, think about this. The dog's nose is really important to them, right? And so even without their eyesight, that nose is vital. And so 1/3 of the dog's brain is dedicated to scenting and doing something with scenting. So providing maybe some activities with scenting just to keep his mind active, right? Because we want to keep that going. It's like us. If we're in a nursing home, they want your mind active. So a dog's mind, a 1/3 is for scenting. So hiding treats. There's some great maze games out there where you can hide the little treat in the maze, and they got to go get it. I had my second Samoyed. We used to do hide and seek, and so she had diabetes, so she also had some glaucoma, and so I would just then manage the game inside the house instead of outside, and so then I'd hide the treats or whatever. So doing something that will stimulate them, but he can still hear, although that will start to decrease over time. But the nose usually sticks around for a while, and that will also help you with when you're moving into your new home. So that's something to be careful of. Is there's certain adhesive stickers that have scents on them, so they're called trackers, and so you can put them near places. Yes, and I'll post that too. But trackers, and so that way you can post them, stick them, if you will, near the door, near his bed, or something like that. So that way he kind of knows that scent, and use your clothing for scents. The other thing is to protect him. Thankfully, it is one level, but there might be areas that he doesn't know where to navigate. And so, we all think of baby gates, and those are the easy option. However, it's not always easy. Baby gates are expensive, and they're difficult to maneuver. You have to walk over them. So I get tension rods. So just get a tension rod that you would use for like a curtain, or a shower rod, if you will. And so that could be used to block off certain areas. That way he doesn't get stuck in them as he's learning his new environment. So that it is a little nerve-wracking for when they have lost their eyesight, because to manage, and then on top of it some anxiety. A rescue remedy, there's a spray that's really good for pets, and so spraying that around, and some other aromatherapy, it's all good cheese. So there's definitely some benefits to that.
I definitely noticed. I used a different, I call it my own little elixirs of essential oils, and did research on, ones that of course are safe. But I noticed by having those in the evening, well, not only does it help him sleep better now, I am getting the best night's sleep myself. So I think that's been something we just implemented that recently, and I can tell
That's great.
hear him up panting, at night, and try to carry him around a little bit and stuff
See,
like
he's got it. He's got it, and he does. And there's something with the circadian rhythms out there. So there's like sundowner syndrome in humans. It's usually around dusk where things start to change, and we see that in dogs too. I have no idea why, but it just, there's hormone fluctuations throughout the day, right? And so usually at night or dusk time, they get worse. And so we'll see that. And then really at night, the panting and pacing is hard. Even my Samoyed was like that too, and just a yelp every now and then, and I would just like, please sleep through the night and try to manage it. But some lavender sprays, listen, lotions and potions sometimes is good, and that, so I'm it's good that you're doing that for now, because that is a huge help, and he'll find comfort in that.
Well, I'm hoping so anyway, because I just, it's hard. As the dog mom, you want, you just want them to be happy at the very least, and it is harder, to watch that shift happen.
I know it. I know it. I just let my Doberman go about 2.5 weeks ago. So it is hard. My big man, and in his last year, 9 months were the worst part. It's just is having to say goodbye and waiting for that day. The anxiety that you have, it's anticipatory grief and anxiety is crazy. But you know what? I think it helped me because no, I'm sorry, like because I knew I did everything I could within my limitations, right? And I think that's it. As long as I feel like I've done everything, and I'm not talking about the crazy surgeries and things like that, but just did I make sure his environment was good? Was he happy? Was he healthy? Did I not go too extensive and crazy stuff? But so I feel good that I did do that.
Oh, that's good. I was curious, just getting back to that, and you can wrap it up here from this. You're just kind of leading into again what Lap of Love is here to do, just as a way to serve and make this a very dignified and as positive as possible experience for both. So, do you have any advice for people who host saying goodbye? It's a day later, a week later, whatever. Any advice for those in helping them process that loss, process that grief that they may be experiencing?
No, that's a great question, and we do see a lot of that. And I will get to the after. So I always say right before, say I love you as much as you can, because there's been studies that have shown that if you're able to say I love you before a person dies, your grief is a little bit less afterwards. And I think that's the same thing with pets, which is why I always want to be present when my pet dies. Because I want to love on them and say I love you. But then afterwards, there's a few different types of grief that's going to happen. Either just the regular type of grief where you miss them, like it's so normal. That's okay. First, take as much time as you need. You don't have to go around and pick up the beds and pick up the toys and donate. But also, if that helps you to get that out of your house, that's okay too. There's a lot of people that will say, well, it's just a dog. Like the worst thing you can ever tell one of us, right, is that it's just a dog, because it is not just a dog. Some things that have helped me, actually, hold on, let me take my earbuds out for 1 second. But so I'm working on this. I lost my kitty cat also this year, and my dog. So I'm working on their little memory boxes. And so just either making a video of all the pictures, or like, a picture video of doing a little memorial will really help you with the process, because then that will focus you on the good times, right? So you have to focus on the good times. And then children, and they actually handle things really well. Sometimes we can learn from them. And I'll say to, write letters to the pet, and things like that. And you'd be amazed at how helpful that is. So for me, it took about a good 2 weeks before I'm ready to now work on his paw impressions and make something nice and do a memorial. And that's okay. But that helps me.
Would you be able to post that? Because for some reason your screen is frozen.
Okay.
But I'm not seeing you moving and doing all that. But if you have a photo, you could post in the comments.
I will do that for you for sure.
Do you guys, and that's great advice. And I know everybody grieves differently, and sometimes it's different time periods. I know for myself, grief is different for each dog too, and not to have a comparison around, oh my gosh, I grieved more for this one than that one, or,
it's different. It's so different, with my Samoyed, who was more my dog, right? And when I let her go 3 years ago, that was hard. She was my shadow, right? Now, Duncan, my Doberman, was more, my husband's dog. But I'm actually grieving more for him, because I know that was his dog too. So I feel bad for him. And, so and just the diseases that we managed and how much management we did. It was like, the other thing too, and this is okay, is to feel relief afterwards. And I know that's going to sound weird. However, you've been working so hard, you've been nervous for months, working hard for months, and just trying everything. And when they go, sometimes there's a weight, lifted because you know they're okay. And guess what? You can sleep through the night, right? You don't have to wake up early, and that's okay because those chores, I would do them forever, but it's also nice not having to do that. And some people then feel guilty that they feel that way. So don't feel guilty.
Well, I'm so happy that you said that, because sometimes people need permission. They know it deep down, but they just kind of want that reassurance that it is okay to feel that. And that goes both for people and our pets. You know, they're just wrapped up in it. It's, yes, it is just a tremendous amount to deal with. So anyway, okay, Mary, this has been awesome. If you guys have any questions or want to reach out to Mary, what should we send them to your website?
Yeah. So our company website is lapoflove.com. And so around the country, the first page asks for their zip code. So it will pop up the vet that's closest to them, or if we service that area. And so they can call in the number and talk to our support center for sure. I'm on Facebook, Dr. Mary Gardner, on Facebook and on Instagram. So if anybody has questions, they can private message me there. That's fine. And if they want to post comments on this, I will be watching this, for, a couple of weeks, because I know people watch it, not just today, but, share. And so it'll be a couple of weeks. So I'll certainly continue to answer questions and then post some of the information that I talked about.
Awesome. That would be fabulous. I really appreciate that. So you guys out there, make sure you share and tell all your friends to listen, because we're all going to go through this. Many of us have been through this more than once. And so it's just good to be cognizant of what's happening with our pets as they age, and how we can keep their quality of life at top best for each component moving forward. And I want to remind you guys to enter to win your Dog Mom Best Relationship Ever t-shirt.
Love it.
Your dog never sends you to voicemail tote bag. That would be my daughter back there that does that to me all the time. And please come and party with us tomorrow for the Dog Mom Date Night. It's going to be fun. You do not want to miss the mayhem that's going to take place here. So make sure you're inviting your friends to the private Facebook group. You have to be a member of the private Facebook group. It's the Dog is Good Lifestyle group. And you have to actually RSVP to actually get into the date night party. So we hope to see many of you tomorrow afternoon as well at 4 p.m. Pacific time. And Dr. Mary, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I love so much what you do and the service that you guys provide so graciously. And it just gives people such peace of mind. And I hope that, by the end of the decade, that Lap of Love is all over the world. Every community out there, because we need good people like you guys to help us.
Thank you. No, thank you. And thanks for dedicating this time to the gray muzzles.
Oh, love it. Love them. do yellow labs get gray muzzles?
My Samoyed is white, so she never got gray, but they can. Yeah, they can.
All right. She didn't wake up. She just snored through the whole thing. Maybe signs of aging.
I love it.
All right. Well, take care, everybody. Have a great Wednesday. Hope to see you tomorrow. And we're out. Enjoy the rest of the day.